Y'all for being here today. We're pleased to have some of our coalition members with us here today to talk about the conservative Texas budget. One of the things that we noted this year, or actually it was last year now, that it's important to get the expectations out early. So back in June and July of last year, we put together what was we referred to as the Real Texas budget, which was the budget that was adopted by the last in 2013, and added to it what we anticipate will be in the supplemental appropriations bill, so that we'll have a number of the total budget that will have been appropriated for the current biennium. And from that, we looked at population and inflation from the previous 2 years, said that's around 6.5%. We added that to the real budget to come up with the conservative Texas budget. That's only a part of our agenda. Our agenda certainly includes that, but it also includes eliminating the Texas marginal tax. We also believe there should be a tool starting in 2017 in order to be able to really reduce the bottom line of the budget. So with that, we came up with the proposal for the STAR fund, the Sales Tax Reduction Fund, and then which would allow sales tax to be cut if money is put in by the legislature. And we all know the story about the runaway property taxes, and we believe that there needs to be a component in that whole order of taxation to allow the voters locally to approve when you get over a certain percent expenditure without having to do a petition. And we understand the value of a spending limit, but we believe the one in Texas needs to be enhanced. So we have a component in our conservative budget coalition to strengthen that. And everybody should be able to understand the budget and the budget process. So along with that, we believe there should be more transparency, not just in the budget after it's adopted, but in every step of the way. And so those are the things that we're going to be talking about today. We have some of our coalition members with us today that will be explaining different parts of that. And we look forward to having a good conversation with you so that when we leave here today, everybody will have a clear understanding about what we're asking the legislature to do this session. So with that, I would ask Vance again, our economist at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, to come and make some comments.
Thank you, Talmadge. My name is Dr. Vance again, Texas Public Policy Foundation's Center for Fiscal Policy. As we consider what works best for Texas, and to have the opportunity to prosper for all Texans, Conservative Texas Budget Coalition finds that there's abundant evidence that low taxes, less regulation, and good lawsuit climate, otherwise known as the Texas model, has been the best path to prosperity. Though robust economic growth, job creation, and state tax revenue are likely to moderate from a drop in oil prices, the state's diversified economy and pro-growth policies help block the blow that lower oil prices once had in Texas. This was noted recently in the Texas Comptroller's revenue estimates showing that the 84th Texas legislature will likely be flush with cash this session. To build on the success of the Texas model, we recommend effectively limiting the growth in the state budget and the creation of the Sales Tax Relief Fund, also known as the STAR Fund, among other items that will be mentioned here today by the coalition members. By limiting the 2016-17 budget to no more than the last 2 fiscal years' rate of population growth plus inflation of 6.5%, our current estimate of what constitutes a conservative Texas budget is $217.1 billion in all funds and $142.2 billion in state funds. This conservative Texas budget will leave plenty of funds available for legislators to fund essential public services and provide substantial tax relief. From our discussion with many legislators, they find it frustrating that in the current legislative process, funding reduced from an ineffective program A goes to program B without a mechanism that flows into option C for tax relief. We suggest that it's time for this frustration to end and help Texans in the process by creating an option C in the form of the STAR Fund. By creating this mechanism, which would then not be available for use until the 2017 session, those dollars from program A can be transferred to the STAR Fund and then be used by the Texas Comptroller to temporarily reduce the state's sales tax rate. This provides a dual benefit of, first and foremost, slowing the growth of the budget, and second, reducing the state's sales tax rate. By passing a conservative Texas budget and creating the STAR Fund, we find the Texas model can continue to provide opportunities for the working poor and all Texans to achieve their hopes and dreams. Thank you, Talmadge.
Mike, would you like to give some comments?
Absolutely. There's too much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I forgot about that.
It's a good name. I recommend it. First of all, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. On behalf of Americans for Prosperity of Texas, which I'm the state director, I want to congratulate, on behalf of our grassroots activists, our field staff, more than a dozen across the state of Texas, I want to congratulate the new chairs and vice chairs, as well as the returning chairs and vice chairs of the Senate and the House legislative committees. We look forward to working with you, committee members, and regardless of party, we look forward to accomplishing big things for Texans, for taxpayers, expanding opportunity, and growing prosperity. President FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, is reputed to say, real estate purchased with common sense, paid for in full, managed with care, is about the safest investment in the world. Unfortunately, that's not the case today in Texas. Today should be the best time for Texans to buy or own a home, laying claim to a cornerstone, really, of the American dream. Home values are going up, interest rates will never be lower in our lifetimes, and our state economy is strong. But today, too many Texas homeowners cannot take comfort or security in the appreciation of their home. Higher home value appraisals have become a threat to disposable income, as families confront the specter of paying more and more in their property taxes each year. These property tax increases are often double or triple the rate of their wage increases. In these times, a Texas home may be the only investment where rapid appreciation of the asset is something to be feared rather than celebrated by the owners. This is not the investment envisioned by FDR for the working class. But together, we can fix it. Because not all entities currently dread the soaring home appraisals. On the contrary, local governments are reaping the windfall, growing their budgets while the taxpayers are tightening their belts. Today, local residents have very little recourse, thanks to outdated laws written in a different era of higher interest rates and higher inflation. And today, these local residents are really helpless unless those local tax revenue increases surpass 8%. And even then, you still have to go through a petition process whereby over 10% of the registered voter population of that entity have to sign a petition to say that they want their taxes to be lowered. And even then, it goes to an election before they do so. Taxation without representation doesn't begin to describe this. It's more taxation over democratization. In America, taxpayers should not bear the burden of proof that they deserve to keep their hard-earned money. Instead, that burden of proof should be on the government, and they should be respectfully requesting their constituents to supply those revenue funds. So, to this point, I want to speak on behalf of the coalition to say that this doesn't have to be this way. And we have set out a proposal that accomplishes two things. First, it lowers that threshold rate from 8% down to 5% or lower based on the increase in population plus inflation. And second, it eliminates the petition requirement that currently places the burden of proof on local citizens. Eliminates it and triggers an automatic election whenever those revenues exceed 5%. I want to especially credit Senator Paul Bettencourt for passing a bill that not only meets these requirements, but takes that threshold from 5% to 4%. These property taxes increase as they are currently written. Hurt Texas homeowners, they hurt renters, and they threaten the stability of communities across the state by encroaching on those Texans who are living on a fixed income. It's time to end this. Our communities deserve better, and Texas' philosophy of individual liberty and opportunity demands no less. Thank you very much.
Can you say your name, please, and spell it?
Mike Hasson, and that is Hasson.
And your title?
Americans for Prosperity of Texas, and I'm the state director.
Thank you.
I'd ask Michael Sullivan with Texans for Fiscal Responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the chance to be with my friends and allies today to talk about the importance of seeing structural reforms to the state's spending and tax systems. There are two reforms I'd like to highlight that are critical for protecting Texas taxpayers. The first is an actual taxpayer protection. Our tax and expenditure limit, it was put forward into the state constitution in the late 1970s. Unfortunately, the current tax and expenditure limit simply lets the legislature to define their own limitation, which is in effect no limitation at all. You never let the people being limited set their own limits. Instead, we would recommend that we adopt, as Dr. Ginn mentioned earlier, the metric of population plus inflation, ensuring that government doesn't grow beyond the means of the people to pay for it. Now, there are those who are going to want to play with those definitions to take into account things that government pays for. That's not what citizens can afford. Let's make sure government spends no more than what the citizens can afford to pay. And that strict limitation should become a ceiling, not a floor, for state government growth. The second reform that we would advocate would be to shift our budget itself from the current strategy-based budget to a program-based budget. What that means is giving more transparency to lawmakers and citizens alike to assure that they can actually track the real cost of programs and find the real benefits to them. One of the big mistakes we make in our budgeting process is not in recognizing that with 25 million Texans, there are a lot of folks out there with a lot of real practical experience at how to bring greater efficiency to state government. By putting more transparency through a program-based budget, will ensure that more folks can put more eyes onto the problems facing Lone Star State, and more importantly, find equitable solutions to ensure a stronger state government and a stronger Texas going forward. Thank you for letting me be with the challenge.
Yes, sir. I'd ask Josiah Neely with the R Street Institute.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Josiah Neely. I'm the Texas Director of the R Street Institute. Happy to spell that for you if you'd like. It's Josiah Neely, Neely. And I want to talk a little bit about the tax side of things. Spending restraint is very important, but for it to be effective, it needs to be paired with tax reform. Otherwise, if the same amount of money is flowing in the state legislature, excess builds up and it becomes very tempting for that money to be spent. Texas has many taxes that are deserving of cuts. One tax in particular that needs to be eliminated completely is the margin tax. When the margin tax was introduced, we were told that it would be a tax that would be fair, would be broad-based, easily understood, and in practice it hasn't worked out that way. It's an incredibly complicated tax with multiple bases, exemptions, different rates. It is not fair. Different businesses and industries end up paying different effective rates because of the pyramiding of the tax as you go along the production structure. It's a hidden tax on consumers because at the end of the day, when businesses have to pay the tax, they pass it along in the price of the product, and it's bad for business. Texas is one of only 4 states, one of the few states that has a tax like this. Nevada just rejected it, and we spend a lot of time, effort, and money trying to lure businesses to Texas, and then we impose this complicated and burdensome tax on business, which is a disincentive for businesses to come here. So we should get rid of it. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Talmadge. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's our program. We'll be working with the legislature this session, the House and Senate members, to put that into law. And as was mentioned, there's nothing like a strong economy and jobs being created to help those that are less fortunate. So with that, I'd open it up for questions for our presenters to respond to.
Can you talk a little bit about how you feel about the House and Senate budgets that have been proposed so far?
It's both of them are good starting points. They have plenty of room to take care of needs that may have not been included in there, and more specifically, they have, based on the revenue estimate, they have room to be sure we have some significant tax cuts as well.
I'm sorry.
When you put the top line number for, you said 217 billion for all funds. What was the number for state?
So it's 217.1 billion for all funds and 142.2 billion for state funds.
You have another question?
Yes. Are you? I've been hearing some concerns about all the efforts for property tax relief this session, that it may not even be as much as what was passed a few years ago, which a lot of lawmakers now feel wasn't big enough for homeowners to even feel. Are you concerned that, do you believe that the legislature can actually pass property tax relief that will be impactful?
I believe the legislature learned from what they did back in 06 to 08 as that took effect. And I believe when they come forward with legislation to have relief there, they will apply what they learned so that there will be a real break for at least homeowners.
I think it is problematic when I hear folks say, it's not going to be really significant. It's not that much, so let's just not even try. I think for a lot of families, an extra $100, $200 in their pocket every year is actually a fairly significant thing. And we shouldn't be dismissive of taking steps towards tax relief. Certainly Senator Nelson on the Senate side, she has, Speaker Strauss put forward kind of a template. The Senate has put forward, their budget record by leading with tax relief. Whatever that number ends up being, at least demonstrates that it's a priority and sets a standard by which the budget will be judged at the end of the day.
I just have one more question if no one else does. This is a little off topic, but I've been talking to different conservative grassroots about ideas for the next presidential race and the flat tax versus the fair tax. And I was just wondering, different people who are thinking about running for president have been proposing those ideas. I was wondering if any of you have thoughts on what you hope to see in the next president from a candidate. Do you have preferences? Do you have preferences for the flat tax versus fair tax or anything else?
Let's take care of the state first.
Yeah, we're focusing on state issues, state taxation, growing the economy in Texas, and if we get it right in Texas, then the nation will have a model to follow, to replicate, so that the national economy will be able to rebound.
No, I'll just echo that, but you've already seen the Texas model play out across the entire country, previous reforms. That's why the work we're doing here in this state is so important, and that's why we need to focus here on this legislative session first and let 2016 take care of itself. But the concept is, let's pass good reforms that demonstrate a record of success, and everybody else will follow on. Results matter. Texas has them, almost nowhere else does. So we'll keep the progress going.
Other questions? We appreciate y'all being with us today. We look forward to seeing you during the session as the House and the Senate puts some of these recommendations into law. Thank you very much for being here.